Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to another episode of Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guest is Brady Mcdonald, returning guest. I didn't actually get the episode from before, but I don't know. Brady, give people a bit of an intro to yourself and we'll go talk about something.
Right on. All right. Thanks for having me, Glenn. So yeah, Brady Mcdonald. I started investing in 2015, duplex conversions, triplex, new construction, land development, transitioned it into the United States, December, packed all my family's crap in a car, just late December, 2021, drove down to the US, tried to figure out how to scale into the US, bought a bunch of houses, and now focus on self-storage. So that is the extreme Coles notes. There's a whole bunch of craziness in between.
I know where I want to take this conversation. I just thought of this. It just popped in my head.
All right.
We don't have anything planned. So this is, I love these conversations though, because we're going to go the best way. I was going down to Brady's mastermind several times, right? Actually, almost all of them, right? People have seen us together and they go, how long you guys known each other for what, 10 years? Like how long just because of the way we chat and everything. And people are like, you guys know each other? No, it's been like a little over a year and a half, something like that. Right. And they're like, really? How did you get to that? Right. How did that happen so fast? And a lot of it comes down to networking. Right. So I'm going to first tell the story of how I got introduced to Brady. Mind you, I had seen Brady speak at the KWCREI meetup years ago, but I didn't even connect the two. Honestly, I didn't. I used to go there regularly, so I saw so many people. But what made Brady stick out from our very first interaction, what I'm considering our first interaction, even though we'd met before, but was different, was that he tagged me on a post. He tagged me. And people don't realize how powerful that is. Just like he was driving down to Florida, the exact story you just talked. That's why it triggered my mind. Yeah. And he's like, I'm traveling down to Florida. I don't remember the exact quote, but I'm traveling down to Florida. I'm listening to this new podcast I found, Canadian Investing in the US, tons of golden nuggets. And I was just like, who is this guy? I'm like, I got to follow his stuff, check his stuff out. And people don't realize the power of this stuff. You think about even just from the two of us, the networking that's happened, where we've went, I think it's totally underestimated.
100%, man. Yeah. And I think it's such an easy thing for people to do. Give somebody a pat on the back, give them a shout out. Right. Or even just if you're in the presence of, Glenn, if you were speaking at our mastermind, I'm always going to be adding you to my reels, my story. Right. And because that really helps you. Yep. And it helps me. And I mean, it just ultimately, it's just such an easy thing that we should be doing. Anyway, but I did that. And that was the spark of our conversation. Yeah. Right. And then I went down, we started doing stuff. We put the mastermind together and you were the first call. Who am I going to have speak about to Canadians about investing in the US? I'm not, obviously you're the best guy. You got the best podcast. And,
well, thank you.
Right now. Yeah.
I mean, we talk networking, right? Even going to your meetup, just getting in front of people. I know you're I'd consider the king of it. You're in Las Vegas, you're in New Orleans. Well, why do you do this? What is the perk? People oh, you're spending all this money. How is this actually turning into money? Or what is the advantage of doing this?
Yeah, without sounding too cliche, the old saying is your network is your network. And yeah. I honestly didn't believe that. And because I wasn't a huge networker when I was in Canada, because I was just in my hole doing what I always knew, and that's it. I didn't need external, and I was wrong ultimately. And when I came to the US, when you were starting from nothing and have no relationships, that doesn't get you very far. So, and I learned that very quickly. And so, the power of your network has really, been one of my focuses, and especially doing larger deals. I realized you don't do big self-storage, big multifamily, or tons of real estate by yourself, right? You do it with a power team, a team of individuals, that can contribute to a deal. And so, that effort to create those relationships and able to do these big deals, you have to get out there and meet people, right? And try to see where you can add value to them and they can add value to you, and ultimately create a relationship that's going to be a win-win, right? And that's really, I noticed that, I realized that when I came to the US, and and so that's really kind of where I went with it. But I also was exposed to like just a greater opportunity here, right? And you don't know what you don't know. So when you get into these rooms and you sit beside folks that are doing, 10 self-storage deals a year, or doing 1,000 units a year, or flipping 100 houses a year, or 50 houses, it's like, how is this even possible? Like it's uncomprehendable. But then once you realize that they can do it, and you learn from them and create these relationships, all of a sudden, what is possible for you can become more of a reality.
Yeah. And like maybe let's talk about some of these things, like because I've heard a lot of your stories before. I can't remember the guy's name, but you went and networked with him, you did a lot of hard stuff. And he was, you earned the respect of some powerful people, or people doing really big things. Maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Maybe Michael Reese, I think.
Yes, Michael Reese. Yeah, I'm just not good at remembering names.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think, so I hired Michael Reese, when I was still in Canada. So we created this thing called a Freedom Multiplier System, which is basically an online training platform that we taught people how to create systems and processes to scale. Right. And I had no idea. I created this. I had no idea how to sell it. I met this guy, Michael, because I was co-sponsoring, because I thought the greatest thing is kind of off topic. I was starting my property management company. And so I was sponsoring an event that he was speaking at. And he was talking about, network marketing, online marketing, and, for real estate agents. Long story short, I'm like, dude, you sound like, like you could probably help me. I have no idea. This is what I got going on. He's like, you got to be doing this. And long story short, keep on saying that. And the conversations turn into, hey, I can help you with that. It's going to be $20,000 US, and I'll coach you one-on-one, and we'll get this thing rolling. And this was back when I'm like, holy crap, 20 grand, like that was terrifying, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really know this guy, and he was like this stranger from Texas, right? And from a foreign country, I'm going to send him 20 grand US. And fast forward, I took the leap of faith. That was the first ever high ticket coach I ever had. Took a leap of faith, and he came, he executed, he said what he did what he said he was going to do. And when I got to know Michael, he was the most successful person I'd ever met, and he's about my age. He's still 38 years old, I think, right now. And he's making, 400 to 600,000 a month. Through recurring revenue. He's done like tens of millions of dollars of online sales. And I don't know anybody like that in Canada. So
yeah.
Anyway, so the coaching kind of come and gone, and he kind of kept on watching us grow and start doing bigger developments. And I did I was more of a personal thing. Like I watched them on social media doing this thing called 75 hard. I'm like, what the heck is this thing, right? Yeah. And I watched what they were doing, or no, I didn't know what it was. So I reached out. I said, what's this 75 hard deal that you're doing? It's like, okay, well, you got to work out for 75 days, two workouts a day, no alcohol, drink a gallon of water a day, all this hard stuff. And I'm like, okay. And I tell my wife this, and she just laughs. She's like, there's no way you can stop. That's a joke. You can't do it. Anyway, long story short, I did that. I said, this is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done, because drinking was a hobby for me since I was like 16 years old. Right. And it's all these consistent habits. And I was tired, and I just like, this is the challenge I needed. And ultimately I crushed it. And from there, my deals got bigger. And then, I kind of, we started into the development world. And then, COVID happened. I had the clarity to take my family and move them to Costa Rica for 4 months while we were still working remote. Yeah. And I came back and, fell back into the same habits, hanging around the same people, doing the exact same thing, having the same conversations, drinking way too much. And I mean, just recreational drinking, probably a very common thing that you're going to see, in a lot of places, right?
Yeah.
And but it's all those contributing, the 1% tires and all those little excuses that you give yourself because you're all these anyway. Yeah. So then this goes into November of 2021, And I reached out to Michael. I'm like, who would do the Keys 100-mile run with me? I'm like, Michael. Because these guys, these really successful guys, they do this really hard shit all the time. Like they'll do 60-mile races. They do these endurance races because of obviously, with the benefits to their mind. So I reached out to him. He's like, actually, Brady, I can't do that because we're doing an Ironman, right? And I'm like, he's like, if you want to do it, let's go. I've got an accountability group set up. Let's do this. And so I joined their group. This is in November of 2021, March of 2022. We did it in Puerto Rico, crushed it. And from that, like doing that, being able to put in that hard work really gained the respect from Michael. Like, I mean, we were friends, but that put me to the next level because it proved to him that I'm willing to put in the work, right? I'm willing to do the sacrifice. That not only that, but he's been watching my real estate journey over the years, but that credibility just was instant. And it was instant once I performed at such a high level. And now like we are like this, like we are like probably closer to best friends than just acquaintances, right? And and we talk all the time, and sometimes like that's the power of getting in the right rooms, putting yourself out there, challenging yourself, proving to these people that you're worth that you're worth being around.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, if you can't add value to their life, they don't want you because they're not screwing around, right? And you'll realize that they're extremely successful people. They're not in it for a friendship, right?
Yeah.
It's like, can you add value to my life, right? And whether that's financial, real, true relationships, good conversations, I can't remember if I said financial, spirituality, like doing interesting things together, you got to add value to these people ultimately. And then from there, your net worth will grow because of proximity.
And it is just made me think of this. Well, the first time I met Chris Rood down in Florida, and it's the same thing. You don't waste his time. He's there he's always in growth mode. You're not nothing, just no nonsense at all. And I sat there and I started talking to him in your kitchen, and it was just sort of fluffy talk, right? We were talking about this and that and everything else, and he just turned and walked away because it wasn't advancing him. And at first I was shocked by this. But then I'm like, no, I'm not giving up on this. And I went outside, and a little later on the next break, and I went and talked to him outside. And then I had a really good conversation with him, tons and tons of value. And afterwards, he was like, Glenn, come out to my car. We're going to smoke a cigar together. And you're like, yes. So you have to, you can't fool around with these people. If you want to be around high performers, perform yourself, right? Perform. And like I was sort of alluding to this at the start. You were going to like the self-storage. That was the conference that was the Las Vegas one, or was that the?
Oh, the last one was in New Orleans.
New Orleans, okay. But you go to these things. They're not cheap, right? You're traveling around to all these things. Why go? Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. What I'm doing right now is offering a discount code on the course. I want to have it so we have a nice full group in order to do the deal analysis and to work through our problems together. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. When you get to the website, click on the course and type in the discount code April 2023. This will get you $500 off for the month of April. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast.
So I go for like two things. Like literally, I went to have 2 meetings. That's it. So traveled to New Orleans for 2 meetings. And that one was with Barry Sherman, who is actually one of my general partners.
Yep.
And to have like a meal with him, and then to shake hands with our current general contractor for our Nunn Street project, and then to meet the guys, the general contractors that have bids on our second project that we've got going on. So that was it. Like I literally, and I had those meetings. I was out of that conference probably in an hour, right? It's mission accomplished. But ultimately that's it. I mean, I go there to deepen relationships, show face, and then and stay focused.
Yeah.
Right.
I had another investor, the same thing. He's from Alabama, and he traveled to, I think, Florida for a conference. Same thing. He was there. He wanted to meet Rod Cleef, and he's like, he's at this conference. That was his whole thing. He's like, I don't care if I get anything out. I want 5 minutes of his time, right? And he was willing to pay the ticket to go there. And the same thing, he didn't have a lot of money at the time. And sometimes that's what you need. It's just getting around the right people to help you with the right spot, and you need to help them. Otherwise, they're not going to help you because they're already succeeded. They've already got this. They don't need these nonsense people eating their time.
Yeah, and you know what? I've completely failed at that multiple times before, like throwing deals in front of guys that have recently sold their company for hundreds of $1 millions and like pitch these big, like extremely wealthy people. And I was just pitching them stuff that I thought they would need, right? But it's like completely backwards. You need to find out what value you can provide to them, find out what they need first, and then you bring something that's of value to them versus just pitching them deals that you think work for them, right? You need to add value.
How would that go though? How would you really know? Like you're talking to someone who's just sold a company. Like, do you like, maybe I'm gonna just ask the question. How do you do that?
Yeah. And I mean, by no means like what I did before that didn't work would be just throw them the stuff that I was working on in my typical manner. Yep. Like doing the exact same thing that a guy that has 300 grand and that wants to do one deal would do. That's not how that works. And so now what we're doing is having a conversation with them, trying to figure out what their goals and appetite is and how we can, what is their risk and how do they like to protect themselves in say a big self-storage deal, if they wanted to take down one or multiple, trying to figure out their goals first and then back into present them an offer on a deal, a real deal, right? That meets their goals.
Yeah,
right.
Because then you know what you're actually, you might be talking all kinds of nonsense and wasting their time, just like we were talking about wasting time. This way you're hitting the points that are important to them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. What are your goals? I'm gonna try to meet your goals and meet mine at the same time.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So tell me else. What else if I was gonna ask about how to be like a high performer, what else am I there's a lot of exercise, there's a lot of physical challenge. Actually, maybe just talk about that for a second. We kind of glazed over that, but the 75 hard, everyone thinks of it as a physical challenge. Is it a physical challenge?
It is but challenge. I mean, it is, but yeah, I mean, it's designed to be a mental toughness challenge, right? Yeah. And like if you read Atomic Habits, it's the basis of that. It's the basis of a lot of these books that will talk about habits, the small 1%, staying consistent, and just trying to and doing the little things consistently each and every single day, relentlessly, and so. That's essentially what it forces you to do. I mean, drinking the 5 gallon or the gallon of water is not easy, and it's easy to forget. Or sorry, taking a progress picture is extremely easy to forget. It completely doesn't matter to anything, but it's in there for a reason, right? Eating healthy, not drinking, and obviously those workouts are extremely inconvenient. And not only that, it's like you've got one has to be outside, so it's going to force you to do it when it's crappy out, when the weather sucks, when it's cold, when it's raining, and you have to do it regardless because it's the job that has to get done, right? And I think when you transpire those attributes that are required to do the work, regardless if it's comfortable, regardless if it's convenient, right? If it's not ideal, those are the same attributes that it takes to be successful in business and in life. And I did that. That was the first thing I realized. I learned a lot about myself, and then I kind of relapsed back into the old Brady. And then that's when I started training for the Ironman. I kind of cut back on the booze. Again, I got real focused. I did not make excuses, and I really, it was like 5 months of serious training to do that, to do a 6-hour race. And you're in, to do that, you have to be. When you're doing the physical activity, not only do you have to actually go out and do it and like stick to a schedule and stick to a regimen, but you have to actually, like, once you're doing it, it's hard, it sucks, right? You're enduring, you want to quit, you want to give up, you want to take it easy, right? But you have to continue to tell yourself in your own head to continue to move forward. And again, those attributes make it are the exact same attributes that you need to be extremely successful in business. And there's one stat that if you look at the average income of an Iron Man or woman, like, I mean, it's a brand, and their average income in the US was like household income, I think it was 280,000, compared to the average American income, is like 50 grand or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's significantly more. And why is that? It's because the same attributes to go through that type of fitness, mental toughness activity is the same ones you need to be successful in business and life.
Yeah. And then how does this translate to your goals? Like, I know that your goals have grown a lot. Like, it's not to do one self-storage unit, right? Or building, right? You want to do a lot of these things, right? How does this, just doing these hard things, how does that translate into even your goals?
Yeah, I mean, you understand once you do something hard and you realize, that you could do so much more than what our limiting brains think, then it allows you to think bigger and push yourself harder, knowing that you can get through it and you can endure, you can solve the problem. I mean, it also, if you can have the level of commitment to doing these hard physical, mental toughness challenges, then it's the same level of commitment you need to do not just one self-storage deal, but 10, right? And you understand it's not going to be easy. So the expectation is that it's going to be hard and you're willing to put in the work,
yeah.
Right? And so I think that's ultimately is knowing that it's going to be hard is just a mindset. I know this is going to suck, but I'm going to do it with a smile, right?
Yep.
And I'm going to do what it takes.
I love it. So let's talk about your, before I let you go, let's talk about your business. What are you doing these days? What are you working on? And then, go out that way.
So what are we doing? So we've got, so one other thing back to what do you need to do to get real successful? Because this is just something that I've got a mentor and a coach always.
Yeah.
And so I was we have our mastermind, we've got, shit hitting the fan, for lack of better words, in Canada with the market and burn rates. And we were burning 60, 70,000 a month and just freaking, you name it.
Yeah.
And then we have self-storage deals, and we have, we're moving down. There's so many things that we were focused on. Right. And what happened was I wasn't doing anything great. Right. So my coach says, I thought that I had to do all these other things up here to really solve all my problems and to get stuff done. And what ultimately happened was that he's like, listen, Brady, he's like, these are the three things that you want and desire. Right.
Yep.
And he literally broke it down to hey, you want to $200,000 a month in your sewer and water business in Canada, you're going to make 5 calls a day. Okay. You want to, put $1 million in your bank account, in the next 90 days, this takes 15 minutes. So focus on these 3 things. If you want to stop the bleeding in the Canada properties, you can have this done in probably a month and a half. That takes another 15 minutes. It's just, so literally focusing on 3 things and 3 things only versus 10 things. And that focus and doing it every single day for 2 hours to have these 3 priorities solved was the biggest lesson I have learned. So I would honestly, so now with my team, I say, what are your 3 priorities, over the month? Put it right in the calendar every single day. It's whether it's 15 minutes or an hour, whatever it takes to make sure that thing keeps bumping along, that you're going to accomplish that, and do that. So consistency and focus. Those are the 2 biggest things that I've learned in my, in the last month. And honestly, I was challenged to put $1 million in the bank. I'll probably have 5. Because we're literally I'm so focused on just de-stressing.
Yeah.
Right. And anyway, and that's not to brag, but that just shows you what focus can do for you. Right. Anyway, so What are we up to? So yeah, we have 3 self-storage deals. We have one in, so one actually we just got permits 2 days ago, Glenn.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'll be breaking ground on that one. That's in Houston. Second one is probably 2 months behind. So these are 100,000 net rentable square foot self-storage facilities, Class A. They are, there is investment opportunities for accredited investors, which they're going to get a 10% preferred return accumulated. And, it's looking at like anywhere from 26 to 29% yearly return on investment. Again, accredited investors only. What else we got? Another one in Punta Gorda, Florida, coming up. That's in due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be pushing through those, get those, pushing those through the next few months. And then, in Canada, we've literally, because those interest rates, and I mean, I think this is something that, again, if I wasn't focused on all this other noisy crap, I probably could have saved myself a boatload of money. But like we had we probably had 7 or 8 that were bleeding. So I focused on selling those and just selling them, there's lots of equity in them, so stop being greedy, just sell them, remove the stress. So we're focusing on that. Yep. And the sewer, we're doing this, one of my other biggest lessons, Glenn, was you can't eat equity. No. Right. And, as this, and I think this might relate a lot to a lot of Canadian investors right now. Like when the times were great, it was easy to get cash, right? Like you could refinance, you could sell, you could do anything. And it was easy. Like, and then all of a sudden you can't. And we have a big payroll and like a lot of overhead, and all of a sudden there's no income, and there's no way to there's nothing selling. And, I learned my lesson real quick, and without good guidance and surrounding myself with right people that have been through this, given good advice, I can see how people can go belly up. Yeah. And so it has been probably the most stressful year in my life, 100%. But again, with that good advice, in literally 4 weeks of focus, doing the right thing, the problems got solved, the tables have turned, and we're selling all the red properties. We'll be sitting heavy in cash, and then
it's about to be right now.
And then the cash flow thing. So we have we did a lot of development, and in that development we started installing sewer and waters in the city streets, sewer and water lines into the city streets, and servicing our lots. So we actually got really good at that. And so we literally took our staff. We're doing that. We just opened up the company last week and moved them into this sewer and water site servicing business. And we should, my goal is to, in the next 3 months, hit 200,000 a month. And so it should be, we'll have, but that's my lesson, is that, you can't eat equity. Do not, this real estate thing is great, but I think having another vertical that can still service your real estate company, or at least service your cash flow to your bank account, is a really big, important step, because, we're fortunate enough, we had a massive portfolio and a lot of equity in it that we could still sell below what we wanted to save ourselves. But, I think that was one of the biggest lessons I've learned this year, and that's what we're up to.
So you talked about being focused on 3 things, and you just talked about a dozen things. So do you, basically get Brandon or somebody else to manage certain parts of this for you to take it off your plate?
So my focus is literally making 5 phone calls a day for that sewer and water company.
So you make the calls. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been making the calls, and I was going to hire somebody because I could do the noisy stuff, right? Which would delay the 200,000. The goal is 200,000 a month.
Yeah.
So I could, and this is what I was focused on before I got good advice. I was going to hire the person. I was going to start making Facebook ads. I was going to start making Facebook posts, all this noisy shit that doesn't really get you to creating revenue. He just no, pick up the phone, call the people that have the work. You do it, Brady. Do not try to do anything else. You make 5 calls a week, and that 5 calls a day, and these that based on the sales you've already done will generate 200,000 a month. Right. And so we get caught up, and you may notice, Glenn, that I'm not posting on social media very much.
Not as much as you used to.
Not as much, because it's such a distraction. I still try to just when I have time, but not as a focus. Before it was a focus and a distraction. Right. And so that's one thing. Okay. And then the other thing is just 15 minutes a day selling the properties that I've got that are in the red. And then the other thing, and that kind of goes with putting the $1 million in the bank.
Yep.
And then the last thing is storage, right? So.
Yep. No, it's good. I love the focus. I love all this. Brady, this is actually awesome. I'm gonna even re-listen to this one. This one is like, this will fire you up. If you're sitting here and you aren't excited to go get off your ass right now, you would re-listen to it again and get yourself fired up. But anyway,
100%.
but
Yeah,
Brady,
you know what? Back to like, let me just leave it on this. Remember you said like, why do you go to these, like the networking and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, you said it every time you came to our mastermind, you came to get fired up, right?
Yep.
And so you need to get yourself outside of your comfort zone, outside of your, the people that you normally hang around, and go with people that are doing some other bigger shit. And like, we do this on purpose, because then we get ideas and get fired up. Like I am fired up right now.
yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. So Brady, people want to get a hold of you. How do they do that?
Yeah, so I mean, you could email me, I guess, brady@brightworkdev.com. You could Instagram, Facebook, brady.mcdonald84, IG, Facebook. Yeah, I mean, if you put your name in Google, and I'm probably there.
Yeah, you've done enough media posts in the past that it's going to come up.
Yeah. But yeah, reach out.
Awesome, Brady. Appreciate you coming on the show again. Like always, great conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Glenn. Thanks for having me, bud.